The Song of Achilles, presented by Lillian Luke. Alright, so the Song of Achilles. Basically, the summary of it is Patroclus, the narrator and main character of the book, was once a prince who had to leave his kingdom for committing a crime. And the crime was very, minor, in my opinion, because it was a crime of defense. Well, it was just defense, and the other guy ended up dying, and they value their sons back in that time, so it was a big deal, and then he got exiled. But Patroclus was in exile, and then he went to Phthia, where he met Achilles, and as they become closer companions, Achilles ends up saving Patroclus, from his own mind, I guess, and, just provides Patroclus with a nice companion, a good friendship that makes him want to live. And then I said, all this happening while they were trying to fulfill the prophecy from the gods that Achilles would be the greatest fighter of his generation. And now they must join the Battle of Troy and fight. Okie dokie, now to introduce the characters. So we have Patroclus, the main character, who is insecure, but he's also selfless and resilient. When it comes to Achilles, he's always trying to protect his buddy. He's also compassionate and very, very kind. Then we have Achilles, the demigod, who is the greatest warrior of his generation. He has a soft spot for Patroclus, which he has for no one else. Everyone else he's just indifferent to at the beginning of the novel, and then towards the end of the novel he just hates everyone besides Patroclus. And then we have Thetis, who is the mother of Achilles, and she is a sea nymph goddess who plays a main role in Achilles' development and Patroclus's need to protect him all the time. Alright, now time for the previews of the themes. So there are two themes to this novel, the first being change can happen to anyone regardless of who you are, and the second theme is fame and fortune comes at a great cost. Alright, so reiterate, the first theme is change can happen to anyone regardless of who you are, and a prime example of that is Achilles. So Achilles was one of the biggest shift in character personality in this novel. He used to question why he would ever kill a man who did nothing to him, but towards the end of the novel he violently murders and burns down villages just to assert their dominance during the Battle of Troy, and then they would capture people and bring them back to their camps as trophies. And he used to be a very righteous person who never yelled at Patroclus, no matter how frustrated he was. But towards the end of the novel, you can sense the frustration that started to build up between the two and tension. So, at the beginning of the novel, Miller made it very abundantly clear that Achilles had only one way of thinking, and whenever Patroclus would question him, he would not quite respond to Patroclus because he was so used to his own way of thinking, but his shift shocks the reader. And I have some quotes to back that up. I would like to start off with the quote on page 243, which is the second quote on the PowerPoint. And it says, "What has Hector ever done to me?" And this is in response to someone saying that he needed to kill Hector, which was one of the main leaders in the Battle of Troy on the other team that they were versing. And in his head, his mentality is, I am not going to hurt anyone unless they inflict pain or suffering on myself or my troops first. And that's a pretty good mentality to start. But then the shift happens only, I want to say 11 pages after. On page 254, that states, "I left one son alive," he said, "the eighth son, so their line would not die." So this shows the shift in Achilles' character, because now he's just killing to kill. And he's, quote unquote, showing mercy, I guess, to these people by allowing one singular son to live. Because that's so much grace. His change in personality also continues on page 295, where it says, "Her safety for my honor. Are you happy with your trade?" And this was what Achilles said to Patroclus, and you can already tell that he's becoming very impatient with Patroclus, who is only trying to help his people. And that never happened throughout the whole entirety of the book. They always protected each other, and they were always patient with each other. And to have him become angry towards Patroclus, you knew there was a change and you knew something was wrong. And as for the second theme, it is fame and fortune comes at a great cost. So, in order to gain fame, Achilles lost his original way of thinking. As you can see from the previous theme, he changed throughout the novel. From the beginning to the end, he was not the same person as he was. And in that, he lost his empathy and his compassion. And I said, the road to fame then took Patroclus away from him during the battle, and he had nothing left to fight for. So, Patroclus, if we didn't already know, died. Like, at the end of the book, he died. He's dead. So, Achilles' way to fame burned a lot of relationships that he built throughout the novel. Obviously, the one with his best friend, and also with his mother, who pushed him towards fame, but ultimately, he basically shrugged her off and was like, you know what, I'm not going to do what you want anymore. And he went his own way, but he still followed the path to fame, which in the end, yes, he became famous, but for what? He lost his best friend. He doesn't talk to his father or his mother, and now he's dead. So, riddle me that. So the first quote that would back up my theme is on page 105, and it states, "They never let you be famous and happy." It almost comes like separate. You either get one or the other. You don't get both. Alright, time for my favorite part of this book report, the passage. So I'll read it to you. It's on page 50, and it says, "Or you could have lied, said you found him already dead." I stared at him, stunned by the simplicity of it. I could have lied, and then the revelation that followed. If I had lied, I would still be a prince. It was not murder that had exiled me, it was my lack of cunning. I understood now the disgust in my father's eyes, his moron son confessing all. I recall how his jaw had hardened as I spoke. He does not deserve to be a king. "You would not have lied?" I said. "No," he admitted. "What would you have done?" I asked. Achilles tapped a finger against the branch he sat on. "I don't know. I can't imagine it, the way he spoke to you," he shrugged. "No one has ever tried to take something from me." "Never?" I could not believe it. A life without such things seemed impossible. "Never." He was silent a moment, thinking. "I don't know," he repeated, finally. "I think I would be angry." He closed his eyes and rested his head back against a branch. The green oak leaves crowded around his hair like a crown. For the analyzation part, I felt the diction was very harsh, because it used words like disgust, moron, angry, impossible, which have very negative connotations, as opposed to upset or dumb instead of moron. I feel like it's just like so harsh. As for the tone of the passage, I would describe it as conversational, as they are having a conversation between Achilles and Patroclus. On to the connection part, I feel like this passage connects back to the whole of the story, as it emphasizes Patroclus' insecurity. He was never accepted by his father, nor was his father ever proud of him or his actions, as opposed to Achilles, whose every action is just praised, and nothing he can do can ever disappoint his family or those who support him. So the last part of analyzation is characterization, and I made 3 main points that I want to talk about. The first being Achilles never experienced anything unjust, as he grew up with love and protection, born into a family of power. Obviously, his mom is a sea nymph and his dad is a king. He's had a lot handed to him, which also plays into my second point. Achilles is a very privileged individual, so once you're privileged and you've never experienced loss, once you've experienced loss, it's going to hit greater than people who've been used to it. But back to the first point, because he's so powerful and because he's so great, and like obviously the prophecy that is upon him, all like the competitions he entered is like just a joke. Like we all know he's gonna win. And my third point is Patroclus is deeply upset because he overlooked a small detail that could have potentially changed the course of his whole life. And he was just too righteous and too much of a good person morally to lie in order to get out of stuff, which like a lot of people would expect for like princes and people of high power to lie, but like Patroclus is just not like the rest of the other people. Anyways, that's it. Thank you for coming to my book report. Would I recommend this book? No. Do not read it. 2 out of 5 stars. Would not recommend. Wait, why did I write 3? I meant two. 2 stars, not 3.